Welcome to the Life's Best Medicine podcast, where we are finding hope and healing one episode at a time. No appointment needed, no rubber gloves, and no copay. Just a healthy dose of life lessons to help equip you for this wild journey we call life. Hey everyone, this is a friendly reminder that we are here for entertainment purposes only. We may not even be that entertaining at times, but this is not medical advice. Talk to your doctor, check with your healthcare professionals before making any lifestyle changes or medicine changes. What we're talking about is our clinical experience and what we've seen. And so if you really want our advice, you can consult us. You can actually consult me as a doctor, or you can consult my guest and get all your questions answered. But we can't give free medical advice because we can't pay our bills with that. But we can help to educate you a bit and allow you to think a little bit. And always reach out to your medical professional before making any lifestyle changes. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Can you believe it's July already? Gosh, 4th of July is going to pass us by if it hasn't already by the time this is released. I just really appreciate my sponsors, Keto Mojo, keto-mojo.com. They are my choice for ketones and glucose monitoring. It's a great double check for continuous glucose monitors, which I highly recommend, but also following those ketones. So when we have those little barbecues, we could see if we're staying on track or whether we were as good as we thought we were. So Keto Mojo. And also I would highly recommend going to their website. They have tons of recipe, fitness tips, so much that can help you stay on your journey. Just great information, great lectures. It's all there. They put it all in one spot. So it's a great resource for my patients, and I highly recommend it. Also, health code, GetHealth, GETHLTH.com. They're doing great work, and they also just came out with a berberine that I really like that has turmeric with it, some anti-inflammatories, helps with sugar control, and helps with the gut microbiome. There's so many benefits that we've been talking about on this podcast with a lot of the experts. So go grab some, and remember, MetHealth is our discount code, METHEALTH, and that will help you stay on track and get ready for the holidays and enjoy the rest of your summer. But thanks for tuning in, and I just want to greatly thank my sponsors for keeping this podcast going and for helping bring us some great content. Hello, and welcome back to the Low Carb MD podcast and Life's Best Medicine podcast. I have a guy who's a super beast. I saw this guy first in San Diego, and then we ran across each other in Utah. Then we ended up on the low carb cruise together. Man, he's one of those guys, like when you see him and you're married, you go, or have a girlfriend, you're like, don't talk to that guy. He's not a nice person. He may look really handsome and be smart and have all the muscles. And man, this is like The Rock. This guy but he's such a good guy. And I sense that every time I met him. I was like, he's a guy I always wanted to connect with. So Dr. Donald Vega, welcome, man. So great to have you.
Oh, Brian, this is an honor, honestly, to be in your podcast. And yeah, we have a lot to talk and share with people. So thank you very much for the invitation.
Yeah, and thank you. You handed me a book, and you go, you should read this. And I read it on the way home on the airplane. I was like, oh my gosh, like my talk, I was talking about stress and sleep and sauna and jacuzzi and all these different things. I don't hear anyone talking about that. I'm reading your book thinking, oh my gosh, we're talking about the same exact thing. It was kind of scary almost. I'm reading, I quoted the same studies, and so it's amazing. Your book was out. When did that come out? 2023 or something?
2020, yeah, 2022 in Spanish and then 2023 in English.
Yeah, so it's just amazing, and your talk was amazing, and what you're doing with people. So tell people a little bit more about you. Your background, being from Costa Rica, and what you're doing there, and then we'll talk about the book. I want to get people to hear what you're talking about.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I live in Costa Rica, and I'm native from Costa Rica, and 49 years old. I remember. Well, this is a funny story. How I got into muscle building, which I am not necessarily a bodybuilder, but I like to be in shape. So I'll tell you a story which, everybody can relate to, because we either do things to avoid pain or gain pleasure. Those are the two motivators for us to change. And I remember when I was like 9 or 10 years old, I used to have my sweetheart in the neighborhood that we used to live in. And every summer we would go out, not in school. So we would go out and, hang around for some of the summer days. And I remember like 3 or 4 years this used to repeat. We didn't even kiss, nothing. It was like the sweetest kind of love and the most pure. And the next summer, these three guys, they were like this size, big, strong. They came to live next to her house, and they built a gym. And I think she fell in love with one of them. So that kind of broke my heart. And subconsciously, I guess that's when I decided, being physically unfit is never going to be the reason why I get rejected. And I remember after that, maybe I wasn't a sophomore, I started lifting weights. And what I would do is I would take a wooden bar and put some bags next to it with Coca-Cola bottles filled with water, and those were my weights. And then I enter a gym, and that's how it all started. And then I started studying medicine, but I didn't finish medicine school. I did only 3 years of that, and then jumped to personal training. So I became a personal trainer. But I remember that when I was studying during during medicine school, everything I related was to exercise, and that was the way I used to learn things. Through the movements, through the exercise, and biology was fascinating to me because I could relate it with muscle gains. So, long story short, I said I need to combine nutrition with exercise, because if I want to be a successful trainer, I need to guide my clients in the most effective way. And the general recommendation is, if you want to be healthy, you need to do exercise, and also you need to diet, right? So I started nutrition school here in Costa Rica. We have our degree is in nutrition, and we become nutritionists, which is the same in US as being a registered dietitian. Same, different terminology, but it's the same thing. We have to go through rounds in the hospital and everything. So I finished school, nutrition school, but in the middle of that, I was doing a seminar for kinesiology, which was what I was learning for the personal training part of my service. I was in San Diego, and I met this doctor, Diana Schwarzbein. I heard about her from one of her close associates. She was an endocrinologist, and she had cured more than 1,000 patients with type 2 diabetes. And I said,
she had a book called The Schwarzbein Principle.
that's right. I have her 3 books right here in my library. And I heard that she had cured more than 1,000 patients with type 2 diabetes. And when I first heard that, I said, this is impossible. She's a liar. Type 2 diabetes is not curable. But at the end, there was something here that was telling me you should pay attention to that. And then I went to Barnes and Noble, got her 3 books, and read the first one, Schwarzbein's Principle, on my way back to San Jose, Costa Rica, which was like 5-6 hour flight plus connections. And I devoured the book, and it made sense. So basically what she was proposing was, and I'm pretty sure that she didn't even know that ketogenic or low carb existed, because she was trained as a physician, and she called it the Schwarzbein's Principle. And she said high carbs, when get into the system, they turn into blood glucose, and type 2 diabetics have high blood glucose. It doesn't make any sense that we're sending this diet, the American Diabetes Association diet, which is high in carbs. But this has to be already researched. I mean, there must be a research.
When you have a big organization, they must know better than us people that are on the front lines, right?
And then she quieted her mind, and she said, I'll keep doing what I'm doing. But people didn't get any better. So at the end, she goes to business by herself. She tells all her patients, we'll do this. You're going back home. I'll see you next week, but I need you to do some blood tests 6 times a day. before and after breakfast, before and after lunch, before and after dinner. And you will show me your results. To her surprise, when she advised them to, you're instead of going the normal way you are taught, or I have taught to be eating, what you're going to do is you're going to lower the amount of carbohydrates, specifically high glycemic carbohydrates, and you will focus on salads and non-starchy vegetables. And you're going to be able to have some eggs, bacon, and some beef, if that is okay with you. So when they got back, all the patients, when they got back next week, she was completely out of her mind because all their glucose levels started to go down. And there were even some cases when they said, doctor, I'm so sorry. I have been forbidden to eat eggs for so long that I just couldn't have two. I had like six, and not just one strip of bacon, I had four. Those were the patients who had their lowest blood glucose levels. So my mom, being a type 2 diabetic for 15 years, I came back and asked her, would you like to try this? And she said, yeah, let's do it. And in 4 months, after 15 years of diagnosis, type 2 diabetes, she completely reversed. Her endocrinologist couldn't believe it. He said, Doña Clary, what are you doing? Because I've never seen this before. And it all made sense when I read that book. And then she lost 89 pounds in 9 months, and she became completely healthy, and she's 33 years old right now. That was the seed during my nutrition school training or nutrition training that made me change my mind. And I basically came out of the dark into the light and started to teach this kind of nutrition, which
Yeah, it had to be so hard for you too, right? Because you're like, wait a
oh
minute, everything I've learned going through all my education is saying the opposite of what seems to work for mom. Like, and you see it happen, and then you go, okay, it's not because if you had tried that with mom and it didn't work, you go, okay, I'm going back to the other way that they told
yeah,
me, right?
yeah. But it wasn't hard for me that way. I became what was for me hard was the acceptance, because I immediately became a quack, you know, and it
Welcome to the
was
club,
not
man.
hard for me. Yeah, it was not hard for me because I think, an early adopter, which means that whenever I see something that works, I immediately want to try it. I am not a there's the law of diffusion of innovation. It's like this: you have 3.5% of population who are the really innovators. They create solutions and they adapt quickly. The second part of that group is it's like 8% to 10%, which are the early the true innovators. First one, the second group is the early adopters. Then together they make the 16% of the population that are quickly to adapt and adopt. Then early majority is 33%, late majority 33%, and the laggards is other 16%. And I think I belong somewhere into the 3.5 to 15%. So as soon as I see something that works, I find research to see how is this possible, and then I will find the research, of course,
Then you call
and then
mom and say,
start
Mom, I'm
implementing.
going to try something on you, Mom. What are you doing
Yeah,
tomorrow?
yeah, exactly. So that was the good part. The bad
Yeah.
part was that my father died in 2016 from type 2 diabetes complications, specifically renal or kidney failure. So that was really hard because what I could do with my mom, I couldn't do it with my father. And that's how subconsciously I know I came up with the idea of creating this service on a massive scale, and showing people how they can change their life, not just in nutrition, but in 10 different areas. So yeah, that's basically
And
the
it's
story.
amazing. That's an important point is like one person adopts, one person doesn't. One person is not going to give up those things, one person will. And you see the outcomes down the road. Along those lines, when I was in Guatemala, one of their most famous soccer players, I was at his house, and he said, Doctor, can I ask you a question? We're having a barbecue. He goes, I can't get my sugars under control. And I said, well, do you really want to know? I told him like everything you're doing was the ADA stuff. And I go, we have to change all that, right? We got rid of, he was eating like 6 pieces of toast a day, whole wheat toast, and he was having oatmeal for breakfast and a green smoothie for lunch, and all of his food, his lunch and dinner were over a bed of rice. I was like, that's all sugar. So let's try having you have eggs. Let's try this. And he goes, what about my snack? You won't need it. What about? So we changed all of his stuff. And at the end, he said, okay, I'll give up my wine at night. He goes, I have half a glass. I was like, keep your wine, get rid of everything else.
Uh-huh.
But
Right.
within a week, his sugars normalized, and he was crying, and so he's adopted that
Wow.
lifestyle. He's still doing. I just saw him; he's doing great. He's exercising every day. He's always been a fit guy, but he had diabetes. The other guy that was on the team, I talked to him, and he said, "Yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm sticking with what I'm doing." And just last year, he died. He got his legs amputated and died.
Well,
And you go,
wow.
"Gosh, darn it! If he would have just like the other guy's playing with his great grandkids now, and one guy's like dead." And like with
Wow.
what you went through with dad, you go, "Gosh, darn it! How do you reach that person who's just saying, it's too important for me to have soda or too important to have juice every day, and not adopt?"
Yeah. You know, at the end, it comes down to the mindset. I think that mechanics are everywhere. You can find them on books, on videos, on YouTube, on podcasts. What to do is available to anyone, everywhere. So the question is, if you have the information, why some people adopt it and why some people don't? And it goes back to my personal story with my dad. If I knew what I know now about the mind and how important it is, the mindset, I'm sure my dad would be still alive. So it became a desire for my life to make every family experience more of what my mom experienced and less what we experienced with my dad. And, we will all die someday. But when you put some principles in practice, you are able to delay the moment where you start having those diseases. So, longevity at the end, the purpose of being or this longevity concept is to be healthy to the late or last moment in your life. So, in this, let's say, blue zones, I know there's a lot of misinformation about blue zones, but these people get to be more than 100, and they end up dying of the same things that people die when they are young, chronic diseases. But in their cases, they are not chronic. They are sudden diseases that maybe are, 1 year, less than a year, and then they just die. But they stay healthy longer. And that happens not by chance. There are some principles that you can follow, and then you put your biology on your side instead of against you. So the mind, I'm really big into the mind thing, and probably 40% of the books that I have right here on audio and on Kindle have to do with the mindset and how the mind is the primary resource that we should focus on.
Yeah, and that was the amazing thing because I think what was great about the low carb cruise and us all talking was the importance of the mind, perceptions, outlooks, community, you know, faith or
Yeah.
whatever you believe, all these things. And you don't hear that very often. We talk about the science and it's great. So, like you're saying, like I could throw all the science at you of all this stuff. You go, yeah, I know what to do, but how do I do it? And that's why I love your book, The Science of Losing Weight, right? Of what about the mindset? What about all these other modalities we can do? And it's not just like, because I'll tell you, and that's why it's so great to have you on, is when Tro and I first started doing low carb and keto and talking about it, every conference I went to, until Ben Bakikio came rolling along, who's an exercise guy, they said, you don't have to exercise, just cut your carbs and you lose weight and you'll be healthy and everything's good. It's like, that
Mhm.
doesn't seem right to me. And then you realize how much data there is about muscle mass and exercise and activity,
Right.
and putting these two things together, because I find that in my practice and you may find the same. Some people can do low carb keto, they cut out all the processes, they do fine with that, but they go exercise, I just can't. I'm like, if we could just get you exercising, or other people will exercise, but I don't want to give up my cookies and my donuts and my cake. I want to exercise them off, right? So it's
Yeah.
hard because there's these different mindsets of how do we figure out that, of having people understand how important both of those are.
Hmm. Well, at the end, it is a thing that has to do with commitment. And you can have the life force to be committed, or you can create some strategies to be committed. It's not the same thing. Uh, why most people that are sedentary and overweight don't exercise, because they don't have the energy to do it. Once they start to get energy out of their mitochondria, then their scope of activities start to expand, and all of a sudden you see them maybe walking. Okay, that's one thing. You get and you have the energy, but there are also some strategies that you can use, like social commitment. For example, there was this book, incredible book. It's called Changing for Good. And the book is about people that wanted to find the best system to help people to quit smoking. So they started some research to see the available programs, and what they found specifically in psychological interventions, more than 130 different systems, many of them opposing each other in the recommendations. So they said, this doesn't make any sense. What we should do is reverse engineer somebody who has quit smoking by themselves without any help at all, and to see if we can find some steps that many people that quit smoking by themselves also did. And guess what? They found a system, and it was called, well, they put it in this book. So everybody who's going through a change in habits goes through 6 different phases. The first one is, it's called pre-contemplation. You don't know that you have a problem, and you're not interested just to solve it, because you don't even know you have a problem. The second one is contemplation. You already know you have a situation you need to get rid of or improve, but you're still not ready to make the change. The third one is preparation. And then you start looking for resources to see how to go after this. The fourth one is called action. And action is when you finally start putting energy into the change, and you keep, moving forward. The fifth one is maintenance, which is you haven't acquired the habit. So it's still some sort of a struggle for you to keep doing it, but you are willing to continue. And termination is the sixth one, where it has become a habit and you don't even have to think about it. Well, the thing is that to move somebody or even yourself from pre-contemplation to contemplation, and from contemplation to preparation, action, maintenance to termination, there are strategies. And many of them, in some cases, you shouldn't. And we talked about this on one of the forums that, with Q&As that we're having with the crews, through the people. You should never tell people what to do if you're not asked to, because people will act when they are ready. They have hit rock bottom. If they are not there yet, whatever you say, it's going to create the opposite reaction. They will become resistant. So one of the recommendations they give is, you should go under their defenses. You should provide them with some information, but it can't come from you. You have to find somebody that they respect. You present the information to that person, and you tell them, I need you to help me. I want to influence this person, but I can't do it. So I need you to please give them this video, and tell them that you saw this video, it completely changed your life. It can't come from me, because they will immediately resist. But one of the most influential practices that we can have is to announce loudly that we are making a change. And that gives you a consistency principle. It's a very, very strong influence principle, which is that whenever you say you are doing something, you are already socially committed to doing it. Because if you don't do it, then you are inconsistent, and that's very, very, you get punished in society when you don't do the things that you are supposed to be doing. And that's one way we can help our own progress. Just tell everybody that you're doing something, and then you have pressure from outside. and the one that you are putting in yourself, of course. That's one
Yeah,
of
and
the
you
ways.
see that on even on social media. Someone will go, "Look, I'm 400 pounds. I'm starting my journey. Here's the video of what I look like now. I'm in this
Yeah.
thing," and they announce it to like that's a hard thing to do. And I
Yeah.
see these guys over time get better and better and better because they like now they have pressure. Like, okay, I've already opened my big mouth. Now I got to. So a lot of people try to do it secretly, and no one knows. And they bring you cookies and donuts because they don't know you're trying to do it. So announcing it, and then there's something about speaking things out loud that your body says, oh, okay, I'm doing this. I'm
Yeah.
in, I'm committed. Not like, oh, I might put my foot in the water and try it, but I'm not getting all the way in, right?
Yeah. And there are also things that we have to manage at a subconscious level, and sometimes we need help from professionals. Let me give you an example. I always talk to our new patients. In this industry, if we want to call it industry, but in these kinds of services, health services, when somebody asks for an appointment, there's a no-show up rate that is very high, sadly. So I came up, and this is something that I want to share with you. I came up with an idea that might work. You know, the the girl who's in charge of the appointments, she calls the day before and she's confirming the appointment. But at the end of the day, the night prior to their appointment, I call them to give them a welcome call. So since they know me because I am the one who is always showing up at social media, then they receive this as a wow, this is pretty interesting. They are really focused on client satisfaction, and that has helped us to lower that no show up rate. But when I talk to them, many times I hear their stories. Sometimes they are in a hurry. And, yeah, I just wanted to call you and say hi and welcome to your appointment that you have tomorrow. We are really excited to have you, and we feel honored. So thank you very much. And that's it. But sometimes people want to talk, and sometimes that minute call turns into a 1 hour call. This was one of the cases. I ended up knowing her. I didn't know, but she told me, and then there were some personal connections that we figured out. And she said to me, I want to lose weight, but I don't want to lose weight. And then I was like, okay, when I hear that, I know there's a strong force in the subconscious mind that wants to protect the person from doing something that is supposedly a good thing for them, but somehow it has become something bad at a subconscious level. So I started digging and digging and digging, and finally found out she said, I have had 5 miscarriages, 5 in the past, 5. I want to get pregnant. I'm turning 40 this year. And my doctor told me that I get permission to get pregnant only if I lose 10 kilograms, which is 22 pounds, to make sure that the pregnancy is going to be, we will have a good result. Other than that, he's not going to allow me to get pregnant. So that's why I want to go to Kilosophy, which is our service. But then when she at the beginning of the call, she told me, I'm really scared. I want to lose weight, but I don't want to lose weight. It all came with that thing that she told me. And then I said, listen, I just figured out what is your problem. What is the thing that is keeping you from losing that weight? You have a simple association to being pregnant as something that is very painful because you have had 5 miscarriages. So being pregnant again for you is not exciting, it's painful. And your subconscious mind is protecting you from getting pregnant. So you have to lose weight to get pregnant, but at the same time, and you don't know why, your subconscious is coming and showing its hands to protect you from losing that weight, because you will, again, probably, if we go back to your past history, you will eventually have a 6th miscarriage, and that is not going to be good for you. And the illusion and the excitement of being pregnant is not as high as the fear of losing the baby again. So immediately the system will protect her. And she didn't even understood that before our call. And then once I made it clear, everything changed. And we, of course, we had to go through some programming and help her with this subconscious programming of pain instead of pleasure to being losing the weight and also getting pregnant. So that's how tricky the mind
And
works
also,
against us.
early childhood trauma, they've done studies on that with looking at that, and there was a guy doing the weight loss program, and when he looked at why did people fail, the number one reason they went back to gaining weight was if someone complimented and said, "Hey, you're losing weight." And it turns out a lot of them they wanted to be healthier, but they didn't want to be noticed. So once they
Right.
were noticed, they felt like, oh, that opens me up to abuse if they were abused as a kid or were neglected or all these things. And so sometimes there's that protective mechanism where losing weight is you're fearful of being
Hmm.
noticed because you don't want to be noticed in the crowd. You just want to kind of blend in, maybe.
Right, right. It's very complicated, but at the same time, it's really exciting, and there are solutions. But
And
everything starts in the yeah.
you talked about the pain and the pleasure, getting away from pain and going towards pleasure. And one of the things you said in your book that I really liked was, and you could talk more about it, was like writing a check out or sending money and saying, okay, I'm either going to donate one way or another, right? And depending on what I do over time, making this contract where it's real now, where you really have to say, okay, now I'm bought into this thing.
Yeah. Okay. This one I heard from Tim Ferriss, so I have to give him credit. And it is about, I think it is a professor from some big university, and he created Stick website. I don't even remember how you spell it, but it's just go and stick. It was a program to help people quit smoking, I believe. So what they found was that you have always pain and pleasure competing against each other. Remember, you get motivated because you visualize yourself in the future as having pleasure because you achieved something. Like, I don't know, I'm turning 50 next year. And if I came up with the goal of running my first marathon, for sure I would have to change some things and start training. But the goal is to become a marathoner. So that's one of the motivations. The second one, everything that will elevate your state, that's called gaining pleasure. The other one is moving away from pain. So pain for each of us is different. I told you the pain that I had when I was like 8 or 9 years old. And, I lost my sweetheart because there were some muscle guys. And then that pain was a turning point in my life where I said, this is not going to happen to me again, ever. I made a subconscious decision. So moving away from that pain of losing my sweetheart made me get into this career of training people, getting into nutrition, which is a good thing. But I wanted to move away from pain. So to make a change, you are always moving towards pleasure and away from pain. But at the same time, if what you're doing is painful to you, so for example, the classic example I use is to do a diet. That's what I don't like the word diet, because diets are always painful. You have to count calories, you have to weigh the foods, you are hungry all the time. Many things that we have an association to the word diet are not pleasant. And whenever you start doing a diet, your subconscious mind is going to show up in the same way that showed up for this girl that had 5 miscarriages. It's going to tell you, you don't want to go into that dangerous field. So let me take you away. And then you self-sabotage. So whenever you experience pain, then there's magic, because then you have some motivation. But if the pain is too high, it could keep you from moving. But what happens with this specific strategy that I go into the book? You call or you send a message to a good friend. It can be somebody from your house or family. It's a good friend. And then you make a deposit. It can be $100, $200, $300. And then you say, listen, this is my goal. And you have to be definite with your goal. My goal is to lose 30 pounds in 3 months. And we are June 7th, June, July, uh, August, September. If on September the 7th, I haven't lost those 30 pounds, then you will give those $200 to my worst enemy. So that becomes painful because you would be giving resources to somebody you hate or you don't like. But at the same time, if I achieve my goal, then you will give this $200 to a an organization that I am aligned with, like, I don't know, helping dogs, stray dogs, or whatever you choose. So here's the magic. Once you start moving and you know that you already sent those $200 and somebody is watching for your results, if you don't achieve your goal, then you're going to lose those $200, and that's going to be tremendously painful. Now, it has to be an amount that is somewhat significant to you. If $100 is nothing to you, then that's not going to be painful. But if you put $1,000 and that's going to be painful to lose that money, then that's going to be an extra motivation. And on Stick, that website, they say that the results are incredible, and that's what we experience with our patients.
Yeah, so things like that, they may and also just the mindsets, because some people always think about, oh, I can't have this, I can't have that, and they're already depressed. Instead of saying, here's what you can have, or here's,
Right.
if you're gonna feel better, it's getting that motivation. So what are your skills for that, for trying to get people motivated that go, I'm just tired all the time. It's hard for me to exercise, or, my husband always brings home cookies, and so I eat cookies because he does it. How do you help that person?
Okay. The first thing is that they need to be clear on their goal, not losing the weight, a specific number, which is okay if they want to have a number, but they need to understand their emotional reasons. I have a book in this library. It's called Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And you should always get connected to your emotions in terms of why you are doing it, why you are doing this. So, for example, uh, the other day I was on a podcast that I have, and I was interviewing this beautiful lady who is one of our patients, and I asked her, "Do you remember what made you move forward and not stop until you achieved your goal?" Which, by the way, she surpassed. She said, "Yeah, I remember two things. One, I didn't feel confident, and I felt like I wasn't enough in a relationship that I had with my boyfriend, and I completely sabotaged it because I didn't consider myself enough. And that was because of the way I looked in the mirror and how I felt every time I looked in the mirror." And the second one was that I was tired of not being able to use uh, to a bikini instead of a long bathing suit. And those two were my primary goals. The next time I'm in a relationship, I'm going to make it thrive. And the second one was just to be and feel comfortable using a bikini or a two-piece bathing suit. And we have to connect with whatever we feel it's going to make us move. But it has to be painful if you're moving away from pain. Because if you only go like, I want to lose 15 pounds, I don't know why, I promise you, you're not going to achieve that. And if you do, you will gain them back real quickly because there's no any substance under your efforts. And that's one of the reasons you have to know your why. And the other guy I interviewed, this is a really, really interesting case. Federico is his name. He's 54, and he had been overweight almost all his life. He had type 2 diabetes. He lost 30 kilograms. It's like 70 pounds in 6 months. And his A1C, for those of you who don't know about the A1C, is the glucose level that is considered stable in 3 months. So it came down to normal numbers. And when he found his 3 reasons every day that he would go out of his house, he had a glass blackboard where he would put with some markers every day his 3 reasons. And those were the ones that made him be consistent and have discipline every day. But he had to remind it. He had to remind himself every day. If you remember, I gave an example of what priming is. Priming is a concept brought up by Tony Robbins, where you prepare yourself every day in the highest emotional state so you're able to go out and make it. And the New Zealanders have this dance, which is called the haka, the Maori haka. And if you guys who are watching or hearing to this podcast, you should go into YouTube and put Maori haka, and you will see the energy and strength that is brought up from their spirits of their ancestors that get them ready to war. In this case, war is losing the weight, for example. What is
or
your goal?
rugby, or you see these guys, man. It's incredible. You see, it's super intimidating. Like we have to play these guys, right? You know what I'm talking about? They thump their chest and they're like they do their tribal chants. Yeah.
And the other thing that we go and we're serious about this one is, since we focus on education and we just don't give our patients a sheet of paper with a recipe or of a menu that you have to follow no matter what, and they don't understand why they're doing it, our patients go through 4.5 hours of information on video to understand the system and why they are doing what they are doing. I think that's power, not just the information, but understanding and those aha moments that make you change, and then everything comes together. So they know what to do. And this is what I say. This is what I say to them. When you understand the principles, you can use your own methods. But the problem is using methods without understanding principles. So if you want to eat a cookie, go after that cookie as a personal decision that you have done, and you are informed of what's going to happen, and you assume full responsibility. Don't think of having that cookie as a sin, because what comes after a sin? Punishment. And you can't be doing something where you feel punished every time you have a desire, because subconsciously you will be deviated soon. That's called self-sabotage. So we are really into telling people you are not sinning, you're not having a cheat meal, you're not having a cheat day. This is a conviction. You're doing this because you have your reasons, but at the same time, whenever you deviate, it's because you are consciously aware of what you're doing. You made a decision, and you just go back next day. That's it.
That is such a huge point. I hope everyone listens to that, because I have a patient. She was doing so great, and she said, "You're going to be upset with me." I said, "Why?" Meeting up with my old high school, friends, and we're going to go, and I'm going to have a glass of wine, and I'm going to have a piece of bread, probably. I said, "Great." And I said, "Why?" She said, "Why do you say that? Like, you don't want me to eat those things?" I said, "Well, you've already predetermined. You're not going to go there and say, I'm not going to have bread and wine, and then blow it and then be all upset with yourself, because you've already predetermined it. It's worth it to, if it slows down your weight loss a little bit and your sugars go up a little bit, you're okay with that. Right. Mm-hmm. So if you're okay with that, I'm not going to get upset about it. But if you're going to have it and then be off the rails for a month because you're so upset with yourself for blowing it, you've predetermined that. So you're not saying, oh, I'm not going to eat the cookie. Then you eat the cookie and you feel like you're the weakest, and you can't do anything right, because the mental part of that is so powerful.
Absolutely. And something else that I think is really important to understand is the self-talk and emotions we create every time we are punishing ourselves because I ate this or I ate that. And here's the thing. I actually have that book here in my library. It's called Molecules of Emotion by Dr. Candace Pert. And she was the first one to prove that whenever you are experiencing an emotion that is transferred to the rest, well, at the beginning, it was thought that it was transferred to the rest of the brain to let the brain know what to react or how to react in terms of what emotion am I experiencing. But what she found out is that every cell in our bodies has receptors for every molecule that we produce in the brain whenever we feel any emotion. So let's say this is something that I really focus on with people that say, I'm on a stall. I'm just not making any progress. Yesterday, I was giving a session that I give all the patients every Thursday night. And she said, you know what? I am disappointed because I am not losing weight as fast as some other people that I know. And then I said, wait, stop. Listen, first of all, you don't have to compare yourself because everybody is in their own journey. And everybody has different conditions that their bodies has to or have to regulate. Sometimes even Dr. Schwarstein said it can take up to 2 years to heal your endocrine system in a way that you are functioning properly and you lose that extra weight. 2 years. Can you imagine somebody who in 15 days didn't lose weight? What would happen if I told them you need to wait 2 years? But here's the thing. If I say I'm in a stall and I feel it with emotion and I'm tired of doing this, I'm not getting any progress, and you yell and scream and tell to everybody, you are experiencing that emotion. So what Dr. Candaspert proved scientifically is that whenever you are in that state of emotion, those molecules of emotion go and tell the rest of the body, every cell in your body, that in fact, they all have receptors, they get the message, immediately there's a change in the nucleus of the cell, and the DNA changes and starts making new proteins that are created according to your mental and emotional state. So basically what I'm saying here is that you create your own reality. It's a matter of time. But once you have a state, an emotional state, it is transferred to the rest of the cells, and those cells are going to create that reality in biochemical terms. You will have reactions that are going to tell. It was like if you had in your brain the director of an orchestra telling the rest of the system, okay, we are playing this song. Everybody, synchronize, or we're going to play this song. Whenever you are sad and whenever you are explaining or insisting that you're in a stall, or I'm happy because, and you don't have to see it first, you have to believe it first, and then you will see it, because that's how biology goes. It first starts here with your idea, your emotions, then turns into a molecule that sends the signal to the cells, and then the cells create the reality for you. Somebody who speaks a lot about this is Joe Dispenza, and he has a book that I read recently. It's called Stop Being You. If whatever you are doing is not working, stop being you and create a new reality. It doesn't matter if you're not experiencing it yet, but if you insist on having that emotional state, and of course there are some meditation techniques where you go from beta brain waves to alpha brain waves, where you completely lower your stress level, and then you start programming your brain. It's a science, but yeah, whenever you are about to say something bad about your process or what you're doing or somebody else, you need to understand that signal is transferred to the rest of the system.
Yeah, we have cortisol and insulin and all the stress hormones and interleukins and all these pro-inflammatories. And so people, I try keto, and then you're fighting with your husband every day, or all these things that you're not sleeping, you're drinking alcohol, you're bitter with the world. And one of the things I really loved about your book, and it was funny, people listening, because I gave a talk, and like he's talking about everything I talked about. I was like, if I had read his book first, he goes, Brian, you just reproduced everything I was doing in my book. But it's so important. We talk about these acute stress, chronic stress, these things I've been really seeing, because doing clinical work, I see someone goes on Tro, look at like Tro ate, like, that was the talk of the boat, how much Tro ate. And he lost 3 pounds during that time, right? He was relaxed outside of his normal environment,
Right.
Eating all protein and higher fat stuff. And I watched him eat, and I was like, you got to be kidding. When he talked about it on Twitter, people don't believe it. They go, you didn't eat that much. I'm like, yeah, he sure did. I watched it all happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
But part of it is I have people going on vacation to Italy. They eat more food than they normally do. They lose weight consistently. Their sugars aren't crazy. And it probably has a lot to do with the food quality. Like you probably have better food quality in Costa Rica than we do in the States, but also just taking that down a notch. And the thing I loved about your book is talking about, waking up in the morning, basically counting your blessings, meditating, doing positive things first thing instead of turning on the news and seeing all how terrible the world is. Because you're sending that message to your body, this sympathetic tone, this stress mode. And so many people like consistently, if I have a middle-aged, she has 3 kids who are having issues and she's, running around all the time. When we're trying to meet, she's sending like, let me send this message real quick, Doc. I'll be right with you during our appointment time. Those people don't do well. It's just this constant stress where you can't just say, let me breathe. Let me not get on the scale 6 times a day and expect me to lose 20 pounds a day. All of us are kind of like that to a degree, but that excess is really, really tough on people.
Right. And I'm all for science. I love science. And what I do is as I said before, I'm an early adopter. So once I see something working, I immediately implement it in our system. Of course, it is not that I see it once and then I get all excited. I have to actually see a pattern. But I go to scientific conferences. And the difference between a scientific conference and a clinical conference is the science that is being communicated in a scientific conference, which is brand new. They just found those facts and are going to be published on a journal. The average time it takes to reach a clinician is between 14 and 17 years. So I decided I will go to clinical conferences, but my primary focus is going to be on scientific conferences because I will have access to information which I don't have any problem sharing once I understand and see the results consistently. And the point is, one of those conferences is Metabolic Health Summit, which is organized by Dr. Tom Agostino, which I highly respect. And he was with us in the low carb cruise. And at the beginning of my talk, I said, I am really honored to be among these luminaries because they make my work easy because they are the ones who produce the science and then I am the one who implement it. I don't have to wait 14 to 17 years to prove again until I give myself permission. But here's the thing. The first thing that I noticed once in Ohio State University, that was 2018, my first scientific conference. It was put together by Dr. Jeff Pollack and Steve Thiene and some other very scientific minds. When I was watching these figures and graphs and many of the information from these scientists, they were reporting on doing keto diet, and they were explaining the amount of weight that people would lose in those very controlled scientific trials. Then I remember that, as if it was yesterday, I remember, wow, these trials are showing people lose weight, but in our system, people lose more than twice that weight in the same period of time. I just had the idea and then it went away. Same thing happened on Metabolic Health Summit 2019. I see those graphs, I go to the scientific poster session, and I see weight loss when they are measuring it, of course, blood pressure and other markers, but on the weight, I see our patients are achieving more than twice the same weight, the weight that people lose in these very controlled trials. What's going on? And I finally understood. When you are presenting information on just one aspect of lifestyle, which is nutrition, then you will have results. We already know that keto works better than the traditional and conventional wisdom in terms of nutrition. But I said, wow, now I understand, because we are taking in count many other variables that by themselves Just take one, sleep. The scientists on sleep, Matthew Walker, for example, he explains how just by sleeping well, you can lose weight, you can regulate your blood glucose, you can you can have excellent results.
Stress gets better, better control over what you
Everything.
eat, everything. It's
Right.
unbelievable.
And at the same time, the guy that Sapolsky studies stress with the book Why Zeros Don't Get Ulcers, he explains scientifically how managing your stress can make you lose weight. And that's how we put together our system that I explained in the book, The Science of Losing Weight. And on 2020, it was awesome because finally on Metabolic Health Summit, they had a breakout session where I think they talked about breathing for the first time. And on the next one, we didn't have on 2021 and 2022. There was one on 2022 in Santa Barbara. I was there, and then they talked about breathing and electromagnetism and cold plunge. Wow! Finally, they are putting things together, and we need
It's
to
funny because I've
understand.
been messing with all those things too, and I'm like, you're talking about the same exact thing. So clearly, you can get the cold water, control your breathing. You get the parasympathetic. You can calm your nervous system down. So
Yeah,
if you could do that in ice cold water, then you could probably do it when your boss is being a jerk or when you get into an argument with your spouse. So all
exactly.
these principles, like you're talking about, are so critical. You talk about sun exposure. You talk about getting out in the sun, getting your circadian rhythm set up. Like all these things are so critical, and I agree with you 100%.
Mm-hmm.
When we first started keto, no one talked about sleep. As a matter of fact, I was at a conference. People go, "Yeah, sleep's overrated. You don't need to worry about sleep. Don't worry about stress. You usually got to eat the right stuff." It's like, well, if our goal is to be insulin sensitive and lower and make our mitochondria work better and get our insulin as low as possible or as insulin sensitive as possible, all these things affect those things. Not just what we're eating, right? It's what we're thinking. It's our mindset. And although that's why I love that and that's why you have so much success is that you're addressing all these issues that other people just don't talk about. They don't know about it. And when I started reading about the cold plunges and sauna and how our body has to self-regulate, you have to waste a lot of energy and heat, and your body doesn't care about things that are going to happen in 3 months. Right now it says you're freezing to death and I gotta generate heat.
Right,
Right.
right,
And
right.
so, and you're not thinking about paying taxes. You're thinking about, oh my gosh, it's cold in here. Or then once you find your peace and you can relax in that, then other things don't bother you as much, And so
Yeah.
I think all these things of, taking life in stride, and you're talking about positivity, waking up, counting your blessings, going, enjoying life, getting in this alpha state. So many people are in this sympathetic, totally stressed all the time. And they go, why isn't this working? Well, you got to
Mm-hmm.
relax. And that's why you're not getting pregnant, because you're stressed about it so much. Sometimes
Right.
just taking a breath and easing things in. So that's why I love your approach. And obviously, looking at you, you're a beast. And so, I'm adopting these things personally. I've been doing the cold plunges recently in the last few weeks, and that's why when you talked about it, I was like, wow, this is super cool. That super cool, literally. But it's kind of great because some people say, oh, there's no science to that. I was reading the studies on the way to the cruise, and making sure that I understood them. Um, but it's pretty amazing, when we're talking about the gut microbiome, the effects of that and stress on all these things. And it seemed like there was a theme, like even though none of us talked beforehand, there was kind of a theme where all these talks kind of blended together and we're saying the
Mm-hmm.
same things are critically important, And so,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the science will catch up, but it's going to take 14, 20 years, like you're saying. It's just
Right.
ridiculous until things are adopted. So doing what you're doing is such a huge thing. And now, are you accepting, like, how, if people want to track you down, how do they track you down if they want to learn more about Kilosophy, or they're just trying to get on a journey to better health?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Well, we have online consultations that we do with people that are out of Costa Rica. We have English speaking dietitians that take care of those patients. And what we do is that instead of the videos, because they are only in Spanish right now, people read the book. The patients that we have from outside Costa Rica that are English speaking only, they read the book as a basis for the treatment, and then we do follow up every 15 days. So there's a WhatsApp. I know in US WhatsApp is not very popular, but that's how we communicate. That's instant messaging, and that's plus 506 7076 6066. So they
Yeah, and
can.
we'll put a
Right,
link to it in the show
right.
notes so people
Yeah.
can track you down.
Okay. And yeah, of course. And then of course the book will give you all that you need. The book is going to give you all that you need. And
Yes,
I
it's
try
called
to
the science of losing weight. It's on
design and lose weight.
Amazon.
Right.
It's really good. You know, it's real it covers all these aspects, not just here, just eat this. And that's the thing that's always bothered me. I have people that come in, they go, "What shot can I take? Just give me a meal plan. I don't want to know all the science." Like, gosh, if you don't know the science, like it helps you so much to understand because then
Hmm.
you're on your own. You don't need us anymore with time, right? People can manage their sleep, stress, all these things. Like my doctor's visits go down dramatically if you get those things under control. It's easier said than done, right? But how do we simplify our life? How do we make it so that we're not like in this constant state where we can't relax, laugh, have fun? You even talk about laughter. I talked about that in my talk. All these things, community, you know, all these things that really, really benefit us. So you go through all these different principles, you know,
Yes, yes,
and it makes me want to
absolutely.
unplug my Wi-Fi at night, like you know, things that you don't think about that can affect
Right.
us, you know,
Yeah.
grounding, getting outside, walking in the dirt, you know, playing in the sand, you know, laughing and having fun and just goofing around, playing with your animals, whatever it might be. All those things play a role. So part of it is just finding your peace at some point. You go, where do I find my peace and my joy? So I have to ask you while we're on that topic. So what would you say for Donald Vega? What's life's best medicine? What gets you like fired up, excited? Where do you go when things are a little tough in life? Where do you get your strength from?
Well, uh, let me give you a quick story. I go to the gym and I'm 49. People frequently ask me at how old I am, and I tell them I'm 49. They can't believe it. Well, I do believe it because I see myself in the mirror every day, and it is not like I look like as if I was 30. But this is something that becomes a everyday practice. So I'll tell you quickly how my day starts. I get up by myself. I don't use an alarm clock. So that's very important that I allow myself enough time to recover. And once I open my eyes, I know I'm ready to go. That's the first thing. The second one is as soon as I wake up, I hug my little dog, my son, and my wife, and we do a group hug. Actually, we don't hug the dog. He starts barking because he wants to be part of it. It's so funny. And we do this family hug because it gives you a lot of hormones that lower your stress level.
Oxytocin.
Right.
Yes.
If I go to the gym, I go to the gym. If I hit the gym later, I hit the gym later. It really depends on how I feel. And then I go outside, I take some sunshine, I do a cold plunge that I have in my backyard, and then I go and take my son to his school. And then when I come back and have breakfast, every time I have breakfast, I have videos where I am laughing my ass off. Sorry about the expression. There is a set of videos called Just for Laughs, which is candid camera and pranks. And I just, when I am laughing, excuse me, when I'm eating, I am laughing. That's how I prime my day to be successful. And you will see me every day doing this. That's like my church, to say it in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's great. I mean, that's great advice. I mean, so many of us we wake up and grab our cell phones, see what's happening in the world and all these things. Like, you know, if we could focus on the positive stuff and laugh and enjoy, you're gonna do that much better. Like
Hmm.
you're telling your body, hey, everything's okay. We're not in the like, you know, we're not in the stress mode all the time.
Right.
And probably being in Costa Rica doesn't hurt the situation, looking out over the
Yeah. And one more thing that I do is probably nothing new, but I don't watch any news at all. Nothing since 2001 that I don't turn on the TV to see the news. If something bad happens, I always end up knowing about it. And
yeah,
in the
someone will
middle
tell
of the
you,
time,
right?
yeah, I don't get my brain with all the trash from bad news that always are in the news.
Yeah,
So that's
that's really
important.
good. That's really good advice. It's such a because we want to know, then you're like, I really don't want to know. I really don't want to see those things. So if we focus on the positive, that's why, you know, coming back, reading your book, listening to good audiobooks, and you have a lot of great recommendations of great audiobooks. They're all fantastic for dealing with stress and life and your why and getting on that track. And really, once you know why you're doing something, it's easier. But we forget. So writing it down like your guy did every day, writing it on the board. Here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I'm going to do. And even if verbalizing it out loud, what you want to do, and along those lines of mindset, I remember watching Michael Jordan. It was during the playoffs and he threw this shot up. He was falling out. There was no time on the clock. He threw it behind his back and it goes in and he swishes it and they win the game. And the reporter says, "Oh my gosh, did you really think you were going to make that when you shot it?" And he said, "I wouldn't have shot it if I didn't think I was going to make it. Like every time
Right.
I shoot it, I think I'm going to make it, not thinking it's not going to make it. Like, what good is
Yeah.
that?" So basically, so many of us are this negative talk. You can't do it. It's going to be too hard. It's going to be, you can't give up certain things. But once you realize I can do those things, we get this power behind us where once we start having success, it kind of breeds itself and not being, not when you hit that first bump in the road, like who didn't go to med school and you hit a bump in the road and he's like, okay, that's it, I'm not doing it. Or, I'm done because I didn't lose 5 pounds this week. Just
Hmm.
keep going and being persistent. It sounds like what you're saying, and believe in the process. Take your time. You're better than you were 2 weeks ago. Just keep moving and don't get so frustrated by the plateaus and focus on them.
Right. It's a constant improvement uh, philosophy, constantly improvement or improving. And maybe to end, if you want, and you allow me to, I can tell this story of the Chinese bamboo. Uh,
Yeah, please do. Yeah, I was
yeah,
hoping we would talk about that too.
yeah. Things don't happen suddenly. There's always anything worth having is going to take energy. And right now, living in an era where you have an instant access and instant gratification for everything, like Amazon, you buy something and it's going to show up. I don't know how it's in the States. It takes some time
No,
to get
I order
by
stuff and get it
plane
the
here.
same day. It's ridiculous.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And to you can do these Netflix marathons where you consume all the content of one series in one night. That 15 years ago, it never happened. So you have to wait. And we have lost that ability to wait. So the story goes like this. If you plant a sprout of bamboo, Chinese bamboo in the ground, and you put water, perfect pressure, you put some, all the conditions are perfect for it to grow. It's not going to grow at all in the first year, on the second year, on the third year, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh year. And that's the same, exactly the same as it was on the first day. But all of a sudden, during the seventh year, is going to grow 30 feet off the ground in only 6 weeks. So what happened? To the untrained eye, you would ask them, and they said it took 6 weeks to grow. No, it took 7 years and 6 weeks to grow. In the middle, it was putting all its roots deep into the ground to sustain this massive growth. And that's how life happens. Everything is a process. And it obeys the law of uh, incubation, which in, let's say, a pregnancy is 9 months. It can be 4 months or three. You can have your baby in 1 month, even if you force yourself, you can't. It's not going to happen. So every process takes time. And the more we understand that, the more we are able to pursue goals long term, thus get the results eventually. Because those who get the results are those who never quit. And we need to understand that everything is a process.
Yeah,
Nothing
be
is
patient.
instantaneous.
You pull the
Yeah.
bamboo out in 6 years, you never see the fruit of what it was going to have, right? And like so many
Right.
of us just give up. We go, forget it. I'm not getting anywhere. Well, you're healthier than you were, and your blood pressure's better, and your sugars are better. So we have a lot of markers we could follow with continuous blood glucose monitors, with insulin levels, and all these things. So we see people, and I've seen it in my practice. I talked about it at the conference. I have a guy who lost 4 pounds in a month and a half. But in that time, he lost 8 inches off his waist and reversed his diabetes and came off his blood pressure medicine. So if he
Right.
was just looking at those 4 pounds, he'd go, forget it. But he said, Doc, my clothes are falling off me, and I'm laughing, thinking it can't be that. He was measuring me and see, and we looked his visceral fat cut in almost half. All of a sudden, but he wasn't seeing on the scale because he was putting on muscle mass at the same rate he was losing fat. So he only lost
Mm-hmm.
4 pounds. So we look at these markers. So that's why having someone like you who understands the process, who's done it with thousands of people, saying, okay, this is normal. You're bamboo. Some people
Hmm.
are quick. Their bamboo may go faster than yours, but we all get to that 36 feet at some point. We just got to
Right,
wait and be patient. And, some people aren't going to grow as fast or lose as fast, but don't allow that to let you just give up completely.
right,
So,
right.
Doc, I don't want to keep you from your family. Thanks so much for joining me. This is great. Can't wait to get this out to people. And everyone, go grab the book, The Science of Losing Weight. It's super good. Covers a lot of other stuff that no one else is talking about. So, Doc, thanks for joining me. Have a great weekend.
No, thank you for having me, and I hope this helps at least one person that benefits from this, and I'll be satisfied.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode. We greatly appreciate your support. We would greatly appreciate a positive thumbs up on all of the platforms like iTunes and Spotify or wherever you're listening. And we just thank you for our Patreon supporters. We greatly appreciate that you're helping getting this message out. We think there's a lot of important information. And hopefully this helps you. Have a great day, and thank you for listening, and thank you for your support.